Well, hello, everyone. I'd like to introduce a good friend of mine here on the Human Potential Show, where we discuss what's going on in the world, not so much in specific events, but in attitudes, and how attitudes of individuals has everything to do with the success they had. And I thought, who do I know that has had an interesting life, that has overcome various obstacles, to end up being extremely successful, easy to measure financially, but I'm talking beyond that, successful in the way that he thinks and what he shares with people. So I'd like to introduce a good friend of mine, Daniel Klein, and he is in the real estate business, but in kind of an interesting way. I would call it an alternative real estate field that a lot of people don't understand, and it's gone through a lot of changes. So, Dan, what I'd like our audience to get from us today is that there has been opportunity, there are opportunities, and there will be opportunities. And how do you have to see the world, and how do you have to think in order for that to happen? Tell our audience how you got started in the real estate business.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me on. First off, I've known you for quite a long time, and I've always admired you
Thank
and
you.
and your accomplishments in the financial and the real estate world. So appreciate you having me on. I got started. I was. It's a long story, I suppose. We used to own Subway sandwich shops. Moved here in '86 to Dallas, Texas in '86 to start sandwich shops. I think we were like the 100th franchisee. My dad was, and so I got the entrepreneurial bug at that point. I've only worked 18 months in my entire life for someone else. Can you believe that, David?
Yeah.
I was thinking about that the other day. That's incredible. But then we got a dry cleaning company, and then a commercial cleaning company. And so I learned the ropes of entrepreneurism that way. Went to work for a couple of people, and I got married, had two children. But the whole time those 18 months, they were pretty instrumental when I was working for other people because I really wanted to work for myself. Um, and so every year I would get my tax return and I would invest in myself. I would I would go to a course, buy training materials. I did day trading. Funded a day trading account with that. And I went to a national guru one year. I remember it was $2,500. My beautiful wife, Maria, was so patient with me because she didn't get to get anything with the tax return. I used it for, the purposes of training myself. And she said, basically, like, this is the last year that I want you to use the tax return for, what you're using it for. The next year it's kind of my turn, so you better do something with it. So hey, no pressure, right?
Yeah.
So I went to this national guru boot camp, and really I didn't get anything out of it other than one thing. He said, find a mentor, leverage your time with your mentor's expertise, you'll accomplish your goals in 3 times faster. So from there forward, I told everybody that I wanted to be a real estate investor. The reason that I chose real estate, David, is because I'm fluent in Spanish. And so I figured I can buy these ugly houses. I can use my Spanish capabilities to fix them and then, sell them for a profit. Well, the mentor that I happened to find asked me a key question. He said, do you want one lump check, like a big check, or do you want cash flow? And I said, well, I already get a big check. I mean, I've got a job. I want cash flow because I want freedom. And so we started a large business in 2002. And it's my specialty is in creative finance real estate. So I don't flip. I don't buy and sell. I do creative finance. We take over payments. We do actually sell the property, but we sell it on terms with the payments. We do owner financing. And so I'm a buy and hold guy. And for me, that's the best way to do it. Build assets, create passive streams of income, and then create time and money together. I think any business that you're looking at, David, time and money together has got to be an essential element. Otherwise, you're working for the business isn't working for you.
It's like owning a job.
Yeah. I mean, there's a difference between self-employment and a business owner. I mean, self-employment, you don't have a boss, but if you're not there, then you don't make money. The business doesn't revolve. As a business owner, the business runs whether you're there or not. So I like the business owner setup. I like passive income. And so the style of real estate that I've chosen creates cash now, cash flow, and cash later.
You know, on the theoretically, what you said sounds wonderful, but I know from the years I've been in real estate and that you've been in real estate and deals we've done together,
Yep.
there's a lot more to it. So there's been a learning curve for you, and I'm sure what you're doing now is adjusted both for your depth of understanding and for the times, because what you've done, hasn't regulations changed over time, so you had to change your model? So go back to the
100%.
beginning. It was a different world that we were in. When I started my mortgage brokerage years ago, I
Yeah.
just ran loans out of the trunk of my car, and there was no licensing. I
Yep.
thought, this is ridiculous. How can I make money? These guys want to borrow. These guys have the money, and I stand in the middle and make money. I thought that I had died and gone to heaven. Changed over time. So tell
Oh, yeah.
me, from the beginning of your business to when you got to the point where it actually started having a residual.
Yeah. So in the beginning, well, actually, before I even got into real estate, the exit strategy was not owner financing. It was contract for deeds. And some guy took gross advantage of that down the I-30 corridor. I won't get into all the details, but then we went to lease options. And House Bill 1823 passed in the state of Texas that went into effect January 1st, 2007. And it basically made it a pro-buyer exit strategy. So once again, had to change, business model. And so we went to, we're now doing wrap mortgages, owner finance, but it's a wrap mortgage. And so I like the wrap mortgage better, to be honest with you, David. I enjoy when they change things, when the regulations come, it creates opportunity. And the reason that it creates opportunity is because most people can't bend, flex, and adjust to that. They're very rigid in what they're doing. It's working for them. And you throw them a curveball like new legislation or new regulations, and they don't know how to maneuver. They don't know how to make that adjustment.
So it thins the herd. It gets rid of competition. It gets rid of the weak people. You still have the strong guys like you that say, okay,
100%.
well, where's the opportunity? And what can I do?
Yeah. So a lot of people, they don't want to see that happen. To me, I invite it, because every time that happens, I know either I can figure it out myself, or I have the contacts to go figure that out. And again, you said it very well. It thins the herd. It gets all the riffraff out of the marketplace. Competition goes down, and then opportunity goes up. So, I mean, that's a great combination as far as I'm concerned. You just have to be creative. It's not that it can't be done. It's how can it be done? And so if you have that mindset, that type of attitude, then you won't fail.
Have you found that when you come up with unorthodox ideas, that often you hear, well, that'll never work, Dan, never, you can't do that. That doesn't ever work. No one's ever made money at that. It's all just a facade. Do you hear that kind of comment?
Sure. Oh yeah. I mean, the favorite thing for real estate agents, and I know you're an agent yourself, is, well, you can't do that. That's illegal. and I go, well, there's no law on the books anywhere in the country that says that that's illegal. It might be contrary to a private agreement, but there's nothing legal about, that style of real estate. It's the issue is they're not educated in that, right? So they're in the box. Here's the box. We're over here creative, and they're in the box. And anything outside of the box, anything that they don't understand or don't know, then you can't do that. It's illegal. I wouldn't do that. Those types of comments I hear all the time.
And of course, most of their brokers are just concerned about not being creative, but how they can keep from being sued.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even when you do traditional, retail real estate, if you're in business, David, you're going to be sued. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just the reality of it. And
did you know that the United States has 3% of the world population and 80% of the attorneys in the world?
Yeah,
Can you imagine?
That doesn't surprise me in the least. That's why we have so many attorney jokes.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So the change, the most recent profound change in the marketplace as it relates to real estate and probably the rest of the economy, what has that been, Dan?
Well, I think there's been a lot of, it seems like somebody gets taken advantage of, and they throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? So that happens a lot in a lot of legislation. But recently it's the wrap mortgage piece, having to have a registered mortgage, a loan originator, originate that loan and all the steps that you have to go through. Some of them are good. I mean, I do feel like some of them really protect the consumer, and I think that's very, very important. But some of them are just, I don't know, just it feels like layers of added layers of red tape. So, but again, it's the guys that don't know how to adjust to those changes in the marketplace that they're not successful, and those of us that can create opportunity from that change. Then I don't see that as necessarily a negative. It's just another step that you have to go through, another hoop you have to jump through. But at the end of the day, I mean, I'm creating passive residual income from most of the time just from knowledge that's up here in my head. And the lifestyle that I've created is just, I mean, it's been just an incredible blessing. I give all the credit to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
So let me ask you this question then. Every business I've ever looked at, everyone, save none, revolve around lead generation. So we're going to imagine for a moment that you have the skills to convert leads.
Sure.
But if you are the most intelligent lead converter on the planet and have no leads, your intelligence is all theoretical. So the heartbeat is generating leads. I get hundreds of texts a week from guys that are looking for houses that they want me to bring to them as an agent. And I'm sure every agent gets that same thing. I ignore them all for, I think, if I found that deal, I'm keeping it. I'm not giving it to Bob the stranger. So what have you done that causes leads to come to you so you have opportunity to convert them?
Yeah, that's an interesting story. So, when I got into the business, David, we were doing guerrilla marketing. So it was banded signs, it was door hangers, it was direct mail, excuse me. And obviously that stuff some of it works a little bit, but it doesn't reach the masses because basically the masses are online now. So the learning curve has been steep for me. I actually retired for 10 years, literally just playing. I was still buying houses, but from 100% referral basis. So I haven't spent a dime on marketing, I think, since probably 2014. And so I'm just now cranking that back up. My son just graduated high school 3 weeks ago. We just did our first deal.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, it was a really, really good deal. But I want to crank it up to where, that's not an anomaly. That's not a one-off type deal. So, it's all online. So, and data is key. It's like whatever you're looking for, it's like you have to put yourself in the shoe of that consumer. For me, it's a motivated seller. Well, what would create a motivated seller? Well, it would be a life happening, like a divorce, maybe a job loss. Maybe somebody got transferred. Maybe they bought a house. You've seen this situation a lot. They buy a house. They think their current house is going to sell quickly. It doesn't. Now they're with double mortgage payments. And so you have to I put myself in their shoes and what would that situation be that would create a necessity for me to sell a property? And then the second step would be where would I go to locate that data? Like where would I go through, like open records, public records, broker data, or a data broker, excuse me, where would I go find that data? And then once you've created the scenario in your mind of what would create a motivated seller, and you've identified where you can get that data, then it seems that the marketplace is demanding texting, calling, voiceless ring mails, email drip campaigns. I'm highly interested in implementing AI into some of those things, artificial intelligence. And I think there's a good opportunity to do that with, bots, and then also AI generated messaging through, drip campaigns through email. So those are the things that we're implementing in our business currently that my son and I, but we're just getting started. So I'm on the front end of that. I get calls almost daily, David, from people that know that I'm in the business because I've been in it so long, and they know that I'll treat them right, and that we'll get the deal done. And I'm going to focus on the people, not on the real estate. That people call me all almost daily with deals that they've either found or they want to sell to me, or they don't know what to do with the situation. And so referrals is obviously the best way to grow business, right? Word of mouth.
But you said something very important. The reason these people are calling you is you've spent a lifetime of treating people right. I'm not suggesting you haven't made mistakes in the past or someone hasn't gotten mad. That's his life.
Yeah.
So what our audience should hear, if you do things the right way, over a period of time, your reputation becomes an asset
For
that's
sure.
that's beyond the measure of cost. You can't
Yeah.
run enough ads to substitute for a reputation that is
Never.
powerful. Now, I have seen very clever marketers take cold ads and run them with reputation pieces. So maybe Daniel Klein has 10, 12, 15, 50, 100 people. I've seen people use Trustpilot with some of the commercial lenders I use, where they've got 2,000, 3,000 people that said, hey, these guys are real, these guys are good. So that increases the conversion of the cold market. You got to have a good story, but the more tangible measure you can help someone have. Now, Dan, you said something else that I think is powerful. At the beginning of your career, you might have a good heart, but you have none of these assets. So what can you do? Go with a mentor, maybe partner with them, right? So I don't know that you're taking on partners, but they could find someone that is, and they could use Dan's reputation as a sub partner, a trainee under him, share in the revenues with Dan, because they're better off taking a piece of success than struggling for 3 years to get 100% of something and maybe starve to death in the meantime, right? So when you're looking for someone you're willing to mentor, so our audience can know if they're going to look for someone to do that, what do you look for in that person? What does a quality mentor look for in someone they're going to mentor?
Yeah, if I can go back just to your previous statement about, real estate is a people's business, David. It's, I'd say that the core of the relationship is the real estate piece, but ultimately it's about people. And so my philosophy is if you focus on people and you build relationships, you do business morally, ethically, and legally, buckets of money are going to follow. I mean, that's been my experience anyway in my career. I go in, I want to know everything about the person and the seller and their situation, their family, those types of things. And then after I've talked to them maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes about them and their family, then we might start talking about the house. That's my philosophy. And it's worked very, very well for me. Now, on the other side is I did just finish a real estate course. So it's coincidental that I'm on your podcast today. So I just wrapped that up. I haven't started to market it for sale. I am looking for people to mentor. I'm looking for someone in that we were talking about this earlier, David. I'm looking for somebody that whose feet are moving. So someone that says that they want to get into real estate, but their feet are also moving. Someone that's actively marketing for sellers, for motivated sellers. I think most of the investors get into the business, the real estate business, and the first thing that they do is they get into wholesaling. That's the easiest, lowest barrier to entry form of real estate investing out there.
What is wholesaling, Dan? What does that mean?
Yeah, that's a good question. So wholesaling is where you find a motivated seller, you put the property under contract, and then you assign or sell your contract to another investor for a fee. Okay, so you don't need cash, you don't need credit, and I would say the only real resources that you need are resources to find a motivated seller, which coincidentally you can do that for free if you're creative. So, but I'm looking for somebody whose feet are working. So, after wholesales, a lot of these guys get into like the fix and flip model. Buy the property low, rehab it, sell it for a profit. But all of those models, David, are just the cash now profit center. And I talked a little bit earlier about the creative finance model has cash now, cash flow, and cash later. And so I want to take, say, a wholesaler or maybe a fix and flipper who knows that business, knows how to locate motivated sellers, but don't have that tool in the toolbox to then create a buy and hold strategy where they can create cash now, cash flow, and cash later. They're all working on just the cash now profit center.
Do you think they get caught so much in I need to pay the bills that they never think in terms of not having to worry about that anymore, and they're so busy running on the treadmill to get whatever they need to survive this month? That's gone. Now they're running out of cash again. They're running out. They're always in desperation, and I'm thinking that desperation is sensed by sellers, isn't it?
But yeah, well, certainly. I told one of my daughters, I've trained all my children in real estate, and I told one of my daughters, I said, when you are in someone's house and you need to either make that sell to sell them the property or make that acquisition to acquire the property from a financial need of your own, you'll never buy the property because they feel it. David, we don't speak with words, we speak with emotions. And so when you walk in with that emotion that I need to make this sale because of something in my financial picture at the moment, dictates that I make, that I'm successful at this appointment, I'm telling you, that's how you're communicating. It doesn't matter what comes out of your mouth. It's that emotion that you're communicating, and they will not. And I'm speaking from experience. I was running a large company. I had 30 people working for me. I was responsible for the bottom line, right? And so I have a lot of families that are depending on my success of acquiring properties, etc. And so I know the feeling. I know, and so that's why I say, focus on the people. Don't focus on your pocketbook, your bottom line. Focus on the people. If the people feel like you're genuine and you really care about them and their situation, it makes it a whole lot easier to do business, and you're successful. And it's a lot more gratifying, because now you know the impact and the effect that you've had on the individual and their family. It's kind of a ripple effect, if you will. You know the impact that you've had, and that's almost just as gratifying as the money. I mean, the money's great, don't get me wrong, but just knowing that I've helped someone and I've made a real difference in their family and their life, help them to get on to the next stage of their life. That's very, very gratifying.
So is there a mental process that you go through to prepare yourself to focus outside of you on the person that's in front of you? Maybe not be invested in whether or not there's a deal. You go in, you don't know. There may be a deal there, but you don't worry about that. Let's just meet these people. And how do you go from that frame of I need to make a sale, go back to when you were less successful financially than you are now, and get to the house, you get in there, you set aside that you need to pay your bills and you focus on them. What things do you do now that you think about it to allow you to do that?
Yeah. Well, I was laughing while you were saying that, because it's certainly a lot easier these days, because I mean, I just work because I enjoy it, not because I, financially need to, because of the assets that I've been able to pick up through the years. I think I have to go back to my faith again. I don't want to turn this into a religious broadcast per se, but I think just the Bible teaches me to treat your neighbor as you would treat yourself. And so if I'm walking into a house, and I kind of picture that's my mom. Like, how would I want my mom treated, in that situation? And furthermore, I bought houses, and then I've had to rehab them because they're in very poor condition. If I learn about the previous owner, say they're deceased, especially if they're deceased, I want to know about them. I want to know what their tastes are. I want to know like how they are, because it kind of helps me to create a vision for the property. And it's almost kind of like honoring someone's legacy, if you will. And that was their home for a time. And so I learned that early on, David. I learned that it really boils down to that real estate is not a real estate business. It's a people business. And if you just walk in with that mindset that we're here to serve other people, we're here to treat our neighbor the way that we want to be treated, with honor and respect, and do business in a moral, ethical, and legal way. I've lost money, David, over that. I mean, I've lost money not because X, Y, or Z was my fault, but I felt the moral obligation is I need to handle the situation this way. Yeah, it's going to cause a loss on my side, but at the end of the day, I can sleep well. I know I made the right choice, and that's honorable. And those choices are result in blessings. To be honest with you, they just result in blessings. Not only blessings financially, but blessings that I know that I did the right thing. Blessings in my relationship, because I feel good about who I am and what I represent and the business that I run.
So what you believe is that if you are good and fair with people, some deals financially will be sweeter than others. Some have a negative financial short-term impact. But if you're constantly focused on other people, not being foolish, not making bad decisions, but making right decisions, overall in a book of business, the losses will be outweighed by the wins, and you end up with an average that's a good career field. And the referrals come from people you took care of, whether you made a profit. In fact, I found only a small group of people are worried about how much you are making. Almost everyone's worried about how it's impacting them specifically.
Sure.
And that's what you focus on.
But isn't that business in general? I mean, you lose some, you win some, and you just hope that you win more than you lose. I mean,
I talked to a good professional trader, and you know how tough it is to day trade, right? 100%. A good professional trader. And he said that he is only right about 35% of the time. And he's wrong 65% of the time. He said, but for every time he's wrong, he loses $1. Every time he's right, he makes $4. You run the numbers on that. That's a profitable business, even though he's only right 35% of the time, because he's got a whole business model.
And 35% of the time is actually 15% above some of the most successful guys in the business. I mean, if you're right 20% of the time in that business, you're way ahead of the rest of the folks, because 90% of people that are dabbling in the market are losing.
It's like gamblers. If you are truly just a gambler and not a professional, because professional gamblers can make a living if they stay unemotional.
Sure.
But the question is, so we hit it here. How do you control your mindset? So we've talked about it's important to focus on the people. We talked a little bit about how you manage your mindset. And I think that picture of your mother, here's what I think our audience can take out of this immediately. If you have triggers that can give you empowering feelings, and you can, those triggers are already set, so you don't need to go practice new ones. You can add to it if you want. So you pick up the picture of your mother. How would I like someone to treat my mom? That triggers something inside of you that's more powerful than maybe being afraid it's not going to work out, or you need to make money, or whatever the case would be. Are there other triggers you have other than the mom trigger that you found useful at various stages of your business?
Yeah, well, you said something key. I want to go back to something that you said, and that's the emotional aspect. You know, the poorest or the worst deals financially that I've done in my career are when I become emotionally, I guess, invested or involved with, invest is probably the correct word, emotionally invested with the seller. So I am interested in the seller. I am interested in a win-win, if you will. I'm interested in a moral, ethical, legal solution. But at the same time, I can't make their problem become my problem. I mean, if the numbers don't work, they don't work. And so what I would do in that situation is, if the numbers don't work, then I would look for a referral source. Where can I find help for them? Because, you know, they have a problem. I don't have a solution necessarily personally, but I can help them to find the solution through, say, a referral source of mine. And so that's one of the, you asked me, what's another trigger? That's the trigger. I'm a problem solver. And if I can't solve it myself, I'm going to help you solve it one way or another. And it's either going to be through me, I'm going to buy the house, or I'm going to create a solution for you, or I'm going to go into my network of professionals that I've amassed over 20 plus years of being in this business, who I know that can help you, and that are moral and ethical, and do things the right way, and will treat you like I would want my mother treated. So it doesn't necessarily have to be me that solves that problem, but it's important that problem solved. The only reason that I'm even there is because they've reached out, right? They've either reached out to, we've communicated with them over a phone call or a text or a voicemail or an email or what have you, and they've expressed, hey, I've got this issue, I need some help. Well, I take that very seriously. I mean, if somebody's reaching out and they need help, I mean, how many people reach out and tell you that they need help? That's unusual, isn't it, Dave? I mean, most people don't want other people to know that they need help, and hey, I got it all under control. Yeah, got it all under control. So, man, if they're reaching out, I want to honor that. I want to honor that they're reaching out and that they need help, and I want to do everything I can possibly do to get that help for them.
I think you brought up something very worth for our audience, especially if they're going to spend money on marketing. When someone reaches out, the quicker you can actually communicate with them, the more they feel like, hey, this person, maybe there's something to this guy. If you have to leave a message and wait a couple of days to get called back, and then they don't remember your name, you lost them. They're gone. So how can you be responsive to a lead even when you're busy? Do you have a method where you say, no matter what you're doing, a lead comes in, I'm going to get me or one of my people immediately to touch base with these people and see what we can do to answer their questions and move them forward?
Yeah. So no, you said a great thing, and I'm training my son. I've got a house for sale with owner finance terms here in the Metroplex. And so we put some marketing out, and he's taking calls, and not only is he learning a new business, but he's also doing it in another language, Spanish. So he's, and I told him, I said, if someone reaches out to you, like, I usually respond within like 5-10 minutes. It pops up on my phone, dings me. I mean, it doesn't take very long. A lot of times I'll have like autoresponder messages just already typed out in my notes, and then it's just a copy and paste. and if I can't get them to them right then and there, then it's just the copy and the paste of the message. Hey, I'm acknowledging, right, that I got your communication, and that I'm very interested in speaking with you. Can I give you a call, XYZ time? So I always have like pre-filled or pre-planned things like that. If it's coming in off the internet, an autoresponder, so they send an email, then autoresponder acknowledging that you've. Yeah, I think I keep saying that word. I think acknowledgement is one of the key components. I mean, doesn't every human being want to be acknowledged?
The most difficult thing for a human being to accept is being ignored. That's why children will misbehave, even if you spank them. Children that really desperately need attention, they would rather be spanked. I'm not saying they like pain, but they want to be acknowledged. They want someone to pay attention to them.
Yeah, even if it's negative attention.
Yep.
So in the form of a child, but people want to be acknowledged. And so I love what you said. The faster that you acknowledge, a lead that's coming, that's reaching out to you for help. I mean, the quicker that you've already built rapport, you've already built trust, because there's something different about that. Because in your experience, David, and in my experience, I would say that most people don't respond like that. It's when it's convenient for, the person that's receiving the inquiry. So in other words, someone reaches out and then the person that they reach out to responds to them whenever it's convenient for that person. Well, that's not the way that works. That's not serving our fellow man, right? It's even if when it's inconvenient. I've been at little parties with Maria, birthday parties, and someone dings about either selling a house or buying a house from me, and I'll just hit them back with an autoresponder almost immediately. That, hey, I acknowledge that you've called. I want to talk with you. I'm with my family. Can I give you a call back? X, Y, or Z, time later. And people. That is a key component to building rapport, building trust, and to doing more business. It's just simply acknowledging people. And how simple is that? It's not really a difficult concept, David.
I'll tell you something. That's a good principle. And we talked a little bit about AI. I don't know if we mentioned it on the show, but people are frightened that AI is going to have whatever Starplex and the robots are going to get us, but set that aside for a moment of this conversation, right? What AI is capable of doing is responding immediately in a very personal to one particular person's inquiry, and the ability of a system to respond to Dan like Dan and Dave like Dave is here now. So it's a question at this moment if you can spend the money. I've got some guys that are investing with me. We're putting in an AI lead generating system. So instead of getting a response that they send to thousands of people a day, it comes and they think, oh, they recognized me. Yeah. And that's something that's hard to do as an individual, taking a call. Now, in the short term, what someone could do is Dan could say, hey, Dave, I'm going to a party with my family. I'm not going to be able to take any calls till after 6. Let's put you on the auto answer. Are you free? Okay, great. And so, boom, I get on the call. Those little things, short of AI, can be done so someone has a personal experience. Someone that's busy can also have a personal assistant that actually answers the telephone. I've been talking to marketing lead generating companies. There's a gazillion of them out there. And the ones that I really respected, they had a live person talk to me. Not the guy I was trying to reach, but a live person say, yeah, Dave, this is Bob. I work with Ted. He said you reached out to him. I wanted to see how I can help you. I am much more likely to move forward and do business with them than someone that sent me just an autoresponder. Now, not everyone can do exactly that, but a version of that. The quicker, the more personal, the more powerful, because leads are precious, aren't they?
Yeah. So you said something interesting. Another way to do that is a virtual assistant. So, there's Upwork.com, Fiverr.com. There's a lot of virtual assistant sites where you can get someone and for $3 or $4 an hour that speaks good English, that will answer your calls, will respond to emails, will respond to text messages. So it doesn't necessarily have to be AI if you can't afford it. If you can afford an employee at say $3, $4, maybe $5 an hour, and even on a part-time basis, just when you're not available.
Yeah,
I mean, you can totally create an opportunity for someone, overseas, that would benefit their family, but also benefit your family.
I've had this happen to me when I'm running lead programs where I I'll answer a call that came in, and because of the way I talk, kind of like a radio announcer, they'll be ready to leave a message till they realize it's a lie. They'll say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were a recording machine." But they always say after this, "I didn't expect to get a live person." That surprised me, and we ended up talking about nothing to do with the deal, about their daughter, their son. They crashed their car, something that happened at their work, but it moves you forward in the process of them saying, "Oh, I want to do business with Dave. Maybe let's find out."
But how much more likely are they to do business with you because you answered the call and you had a personal connection through a conversation? I can give you an example of we're about to celebrate our 25th wedding anniversary.
Hey, happy anniversary!
My wife Maria, thank you, in July. And so we went to look at a custom jeweler, and the first thing he said to us is, "Are you so-and-so?" Which was the wrong name. I said, "No, we're the clients." And he says, "Oh, you're early." And I was like, well, what an odd thing to say. I mean, we're early, and most people either are late or don't show up. But we didn't build rapport. So I was talking this morning with the jeweler, and he personally called me. And it wasn't some bot or some secretary. It was the actual jeweler called me, and we started talking about our marriages, and we started talking about our businesses. And when I had him on speaker, Maria's a Spanish speaker, so she didn't participate in the conversation. But when I got off, she said that's the guy that I want to do my ring, because she felt, again, we speak with emotions. So she felt his communication through his emotion of that. This guy really cares about us as people and the celebration of our wonderful marriage. And he wants to build a piece that, obviously I'm going to wear every single day that represents, our commitment, our love for one another. I want that guy to do it. And so that to me was that he would make the call himself, and that we could have that human connection. I know that I'll do business with that man.
I'm going to say something that just occurred to me. Skills are very needed to be successful at whatever we're doing and other people are doing, right? You need skills.
Yeah.
But if you are likable, if the vibe that comes out of you is, "I like this dang guy," and then they'll worry about whether or not you're competent second. But if they like you, right? So when you're thinking about someone else, I noticed, I always ask people questions. And when I'm done, even if I didn't talk, they always say, "Man, you're just like me." And I've always been baffled. I thought, I didn't really talk, but they were talking about themselves. So to them, I'm like them because we only talked about them.
Yeah.
It seems so obvious to me, but it just felt, and I was also truly interested. So I'm not just nodding my head, I'm asking questions. Now, I'll say this about asking questions. If you ask them to pack together without giving a chance for each to kind of settle, they'll believe they're in an inquisition, and that will kill the vibe. But if you're interested and ask questions, it's huge.
Yeah, my children are, they're still in training, right? I mean, they're in their early 20s. My son's in his late teens, and they always say, "Dad, you ask so many questions of people. It feels like an interview." And I say, "No, I'm genuinely interested in who they are and what they represent, their thought process, their experiences. I mean, how do you get to know people unless you ask questions about them?" And so slowly but surely, I'm getting their thinking to where you're not being intrusive into other people's business. No, you're genuinely interested in, their experiences and what they bring, what those experiences that they bring to the table, so that you can either connect with them, learn from them, or figure out, this person's not a good fit for me professionally or personally. I mean, even that, right? I've also had that same experience, Dave, that the people that like me the most are the people that we have a conversation with and I don't say anything. I ask the question, they do all the talking, and at the end they're like, "Dude, you're an awesome guy." And I go, "Well, thank you, I appreciate that." And then I go later and go, "How do they know I'm an awesome guy? I mean, we just talked about them." But that's what
it felt good. It felt good to be acknowledged. You were actually generally interested in what they had to say. They can feel that. If you take a picture of the human body with the right equipment, you can see magnetic fields around it. Sometimes people talk about energies and you think they're like a hippie or something like that, but you can look with scientific equipment, you can see energy spots in the body. You can see vibrations and magnetic fields coming off the body, because that's what we are. We're an electronic machine. And emotions, when you have an emotion, you get even more. You can be like 9 meters out with what they can take pictures of with the right kind of equipment with vibration. So when someone says, I feel you, that's not just a slang. They can actually feel you.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, my kids said that. Oh, I feel you. And yeah, that's true. It's not just a euphemism.
So Dan, this business that you're in, real estate, it's really about people. And isn't life really about people? And the people that are most successful, if we measure it not only in finance, but we'll call it, this is a loose term, happiness, find fulfillment in life. They find fulfillment in others, not to the point where they become a doormat for somebody, but where they're concerned about others. So if you were going to look at the world as it sits now and what you've learned in life now, what's the one thing you would say to our audience that they can do right now that's easy to do, just as easy not to do, that they could start immediately after hearing this and start moving forward in a momentum of changing their life and move it in a direction that's more like they'd like to have it?
Well, it just gets back to a lot of people talk about what they're going to do and what they want to do, and it's really, what are your feet doing? And so it's really just boils down to taking action. I would say the one thing that they can do right now to build momentum is go find somebody that's doing and successful at what it is that you're interested in doing. Go to work for them, even if you're working for free. So leverage your time with your mentor's expertise. You'll get there 3 times faster. And then the other thing is don't talk about it. Go do it.
So don't be afraid to first ask someone,
Sure.
because maybe not everyone would be a good match or be willing. But 2, when they say, okay, let's do this, even if you're not getting paid to do it. I think most people pay money to go to college and then $100,000 when they get out and have a degree, they can't get a job. So if you don't have to pay anything, that's probably a start in the right direction. And then follow what they tell you to do. Be willing to make mistakes, because you probably will. You can't do what took them 40 years to learn, right? You go out and try. And then you come back and say, Dan, I did this and this happened. Oh, okay. Well, here's what I would do next.
Right.
When I ran a car dealership, I had like 40 salespeople working for me. And I was in the desk in the back room. Let me ask my manager. You've been in a car dealership, And I would have like 12 or 15 deals going at once. They'd come in and they'd say, what do I do? He said this. Go out and say this. If someone fought me, they never did well. If someone said, okay, and they went out and did it, they came back in, they looked at me puzzled, said, he said this. Okay, say this now. So I could work 15 or 20 deals at one time for people that would listen to me. And the ones that were sharp started to see the pattern of asking questions and what was happening. And then when I could see the deal got to a certain point, and you probably do this with people you help, and you could see they're up against, they can't go any further with this person, but you think there's something good. You go out from the desk and say, hey, this is my manager, Dave. Hey, Dan, nice to meet you. I hear this, I said that, and then we'd end up closing that deal. So you're looking for people that could do what my salespeople in the dealership used to do for me. You're willing to train them, and let's share in the financial success of closing these deals. Let's help a lot of people while we're doing it, and let's learn. Let's learn together. And couldn't they learn and come up to a point where maybe they become a trainer? I mean, that's what life is about, isn't it?
Yeah, that would be the goal. You said a lot of things in a short period of time. A couple of things that come to my mind on the things that you have said it's not who you are, it's who you know in this world. So, it's the relationships that you create. That's where you're going to find the information and the opportunities. And so, if you know those people, go bring value to them, provide value to the people that that have those skill sets. There was another important thing that you said that I've learned is when I found a mentor, the mentor told me, he says, learn my language and you'll get my bank account. And I thought, learn your language and I'll get your bank account. So in other words, exactly what you said. The guys at your auto shop, if they learn your language, like how you deal with people, how you negotiate with people, how you present, the transaction, you learn how to get David's language, you get David's bank account. And so that's the power of a mentor. He's already worked through all those kinks and already made all the mistakes and he knows what to say. I'm doing that right now with my son and my daughters. They call me up and they go, "Hey, this person said this. Like, I don't know what to say to that." And I just go, "Well, go tell them this," and then let me know what they say. And so I'm doing that, not in the car lot setting, but just over, phone calls and or text. And so their success is rapidly accelerated because they have, I'm their daddy too, but they have instant answers as to how to overcome this objection, how to present, this property, how to, whatever the case may be. They've got instant, I guess, gratification, if you will, in that they've got the language. They learn my language, they're going to get my bank account.
Have you ever had someone say to you when you tell them what to say, "Oh, that'll never work. They'll never believe me. They'll never work." And
100%.
have you ever had, here's what I started to say to people, you know what? It might not, but wouldn't it be cool to find out? Go out and say it. Let's see. And they'll come back to me with this look on their face like it worked. Well,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to trick anybody. What am I trying to do? Communicate with them. I'm trying to get some more information.
No, I've had guys where I've told them, so they brought in the information on a house, and I give them the offer to make, and they're like, they'll never do that. I'm like, well, how do you know that? I mean, we haven't even talked to them yet. And really it boils down to they're putting their own personal opinion or their own personal beliefs or their own personal situation on that transaction. And they're saying, well, I wouldn't do it. So if I wouldn't do it, then they wouldn't do it. But what they have to understand is that their situation is not this person's, not, for example, we'll use a seller. That's not their seller situation. The seller has a need. They wouldn't have reached out. We're providing a solution. Just because you wouldn't do it because you're not motivated or in a distressed situation, caused by a life happening, doesn't mean that they won't, and it doesn't make sense for them. You're exactly right, Dave. It would be really great to see what they say about that. So go present it exactly way I told you to present it, and let me know what they say, and I'll give you the next step. So back to your other comment, yeah, I'm looking for people that are moving their feet. I mean, if you're moving your feet, I guess my prime person that we want to mentor and want to work with would be someone that's already reaching out to sellers, already have that kind of skill set down, and then we're going to tweak that and move that around, change that around to maybe different data sets, because my data set's going to be different than maybe the wholesaler or like a fix and flip guy, investor. And so that would be my perfect. When I first met my mentor, though, I was working at a flooring store. I was working 60 hours a week, managing the showroom and then running appointments after the showroom closed, selling people floors in their homes. And so, I pretty much didn't bring anything to the table except for energy, a strong desire to make things happen. And my feet were moving. My feet were definitely moving, and I was motivated. And so I would say that even if they're not necessarily contacting sellers that are not to that stage, I'm going to know real quick if someone reaches out to me. I'll know real quick if their mouth's moving or if their feet are moving with their mouth.
So the market is filled with opportunity, Dan. In fact, the more
100%.
fear there is, and there's plenty of it right now, the greater the opportunity. We're in a transition in life, in the world right now, which means huge opportunity. How would someone reach out to you to see if you'd be willing to work with them? How would they reach you, Dan?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Let me say something just real quick about what you just said. So actually, there is massive opportunities right now in the marketplace. I'm more optimistic right now than I've ever been, and here's the reason why. With the interest rates the way they are, they're high. My style of real estate, we're capitalizing on yesterday's interest rates. I'm looking at houses that have financing in place on them for 2.75, 2.875, like sub 3 interest rates on houses. You can't go get that. The only way that you can capitalize on that is if you have the knowledge to take advantage of yesterday's rates. So the way that somebody would get a hold of me is they can go to my website, libertyhousebuyers.com. Click on the contact us. My email address is daniel@libertyhousebuyers.com. You can call the phone number off of my website, libertyhousebuyers.com. That'll come directly to me. Be happy to have a conversation. You can fill out a form on my website, libertyhousebuyers.com. That's probably the best way to reach out to me. I'm also on Facebook. You can connect with me on Facebook, send me a messenger. I'm under Daniel Klein. I'm on Instagram.
You're everywhere.
I think I'm on I think I am the Daniel Klein on Instagram. So yeah, I mean, I'm pretty easy to find. I've been in business a long time. My phone number hasn't changed in 20 plus years. So yeah, if you want to find me, you reach out. I'll be happy to have a conversation.
You're everywhere. And I can tell for
See if
anyone
we're
that's
good.
listening that has an interest in real estate, Dan would be a great person to learn from. Or if you've been a realtor and are burned out on a path that you are finding unfulfilling, I think Dan would be a breath of fresh air if you're open-minded and willing to look at the world of real estate from a different set of eyes. Because I've worked with Dan before, we've done deals together. And I'll have to say, when I first worked with him, coming out of a traditional background, I would think, oh, no, they would never do that. But I was wrong. Not only would they do it, but they did it with me and Dan doing deals together. So I was proved mistaken, at least from my own perspective.
I remember Glenbrook. I mean, Glenbrook was just like a dead end deal. I mean, you know, the gentleman just started an African paraware company.
Yeah.
And the young lady, I think, had just gotten laid off of her TI or IT job. They're grossly behind in their payments. The house isn't selling because it's overpriced. And you're like, man, I want to help these people, but like listing, it's not working. I think you had it listed for 60 days or so and no takers. And then we were able to come in and we solved their problem. We made some good money doing it. And
I think we did which people will tell you in the real estate business, really, the open houses never work. The world has changed. However, we put signs up and down the street, did a couple of open houses. We found a buyer and we did a deal in 2 weekends. I think it was 2 weekends.
Yeah. No, it was really quick that we sold the house. It was a great turnaround and a great way to help those folks get out of the house that wasn't going to sell. And then we created an opportunity for someone to buy a home that otherwise wouldn't have had that opportunity. And
so we're in a world to create opportunity. I would like to ask our audience to please subscribe. Please give us a thumbs up. Please do the black bell so that you'll be notified every time we do one of these. Reach out to Dan if you have an interest in real estate. If you're already an agent, as I said before, and you're gotten burned out, doesn't seem to be working, talk to Dan before you decide that the business is not for you. He'll tell you real quick. He'll give you what you can do if you want to be successful. I'd like to thank one and all of you for listening. Dan, as always, it's always good to talk with you. I think our pre-show was as much fun as the actual show. And maybe someday we'll do outtakes and we'll share the secret lives of Dave and Dan.
There you go. Yeah, I do very much enjoy our friendship and our relationship through the years. Thank you so much for having me on your show, David.
My great pleasure. Thank you, one and all. Bye, Dan.